Hello guys, this is the database lecture number 2 and here our topic is acid properties of Dbms. Okay, myself Dr. Dibya Bora, and you'll find my introduction in the description below, and also you'll find the link to the first lecture in the description box. Okay, so let's start. First of all, what is transaction? Transaction can be defined as a very small logical unit of a program, and it may contain several low-level tasks. So a transaction may contain several low-level tasks, and the transaction access data through two operations. Those are read and write operations. Okay. Then coming to the definition of acid. Acids are those properties that should be followed by a Dbms to maintain consistency in a database before and after transaction. Okay, so we have got a technical term, that is consistency. And what is consistency? We'll discuss. Okay, let's again coming to the acids. Acid stands for A, atomicity, C, consistency, I, isolation, D, durability. Well, we'll discuss all of these technical terms by one after another through some examples. Atomicity. This property means either all of its operations are executed or none. That is all or nothing rule. Okay. Here the transaction should be treated as an atomic unit. You know, atomic means one. Okay, one unit. There must not be any state in the database where a transaction is left partially completed. So we mean to say that partial completion is not allowed under atomicity. And this property involves two operations, either abort and commit or commit. Okay, abort means if a transaction aborts, changes made to the database are not visible. Okay, no changes will be visible if abort is performed. Okay, commit, if a transaction commits, then changes will be visible. Okay, so they're just opposite to each other, abort and commit. Let's take an example. Say we have two saving accounts of two persons, A1 that is containing 2000 rupees, A2 has 5000 rupees. Now A1 transfers rupees 1000 to A2. Well, consider this diagram. Initially we have A1 as 2000 and A2, in A2 we have 5000. See, T is the transaction, and as I have already told you that transaction contains several small other tasks. Here T1 and T2, and what are those tasks? One is debit, that is taken place with respect to A1, and one is credit, that is taken place for A2. Okay, say T1 that is debit, T2 is credit. Now these are the sequence of operations. Read A1, then A1 being subtracted 1000 by 1000, and that is being stored in A1, and write A1 mean this changes is now made to the memory. Okay, similarly in T2 read A2, okay, then A2 is being added with 1000, then write A2, that is changes of A2 is now being made to memory. After this transition we have A1 as 1000, A2 as 6000. I hope this picture is clear to you. Now, here if the transaction fails after completion of T1 but before completion of T2, okay, say after write A1 but before write A2, then what would happen? Amount has been deducted from A1 but will not be credited to A2 as the changes is not yet made, because write A2 operation before taking place, that transaction is failed. Got it? So what would happen? Amount debited from A1 but not credited to A2, and this will imply an inconsistent database state. Got it? That's why the transaction must be atomic, that is, it should follow the atomicity property. That is, that transaction should be executed entirely in order to ensure the correctness or consistency of the database state. Okay, so in brief, this T1 and T2, that is some subtasks of the transaction T, all these subtasks should be completed entirely. Okay, there should not be arising such case like T1 is executed completely but T2 is partially. Okay, this is not allowed under atomicity. I hope this atomicity property is now clear to you. Now coming to the next property, consistency. Consistency property says that the database must remain in a consistent state after any transaction. Okay, no transaction should have any adverse effect on the data residing in the database, and the integrity constraints must be maintained that before and after the transaction data should remain consistent. Well, what is that? Let's consider the example. It's just in the above case, means above example of transactions T, where A1 and A2, two accounts being considered. Okay, A1 transferred that amount rupees 1,000 to A2. Initially A1 has 2,000 and A2 has 5,000. Now, before the transaction T occurs, we have total as 2,000 plus 5,000. 2,000 of A1, 5,000 of A2 as overall 7,000. After the transaction T occurs, total is 1,000 of A1, 6,000 of A2, so overall 7,000. Well, the total before transaction is 7,000 and after transaction it is 7,000. It is okay, so the total is equal. So we can say that the database is consistent. Got it? The consistency means data should be maintained equal. Total of the data should be maintained equal. But if say T1 completes its execution but T2 fails, so in that case total will not equal. Before transaction we have what? 7,000, but after transaction we will have 1,000 plus 5,000. As T2 is not complete, so 5,000 will be the initial amount of A2, and that will remain same. So 5,000 plus 1,000, that is 6,000. So 7,000 before transaction, after transaction 6,000. So they are not equal. So that will imply an data inconsistency state. Clear? So I hope this consistency property is clear to you. And do remember that this data consistency, this terminology is very important, and you will find this everywhere. Okay. Either you are doing some data science course or some advanced logics of database, then there everywhere you will find this term. Now coming to this third property, that is isolation. This property ensures that multiple transactions can occur concurrently, okay, without leading to inconsistency of databases. Okay. So this means that more than one transaction is going on at the same time, but they should not imply inconsistency of the database state. Transactions should occur independently without interference. And all the transactions will be carried out and executed as if it is the only transaction in the system. Got it? Means changes occurring in a particular transaction will not be visible to any other transaction until that particular change in the transaction is written to the memory or has been committed. You may note it down, written to the memory or has been committed. Got it? So what does it mean exactly? Let's take an example. Now this time I am considering A1 has 2000, A2 has 5000. Okay, we'll come to this line after discussing it. T1, T2, these are the sequence of operation. Read A1, A1 plus 5000 being assigned to A1, then write A1, then read A2, then A2 cross 200 assigned to A2, write A2. Now, read A1 in case of T2, okay? Read A1, read A2, A1 plus A2 is assigned to A3, write A3. Now, say, consider one condition or situation when T1 is executed till read A2, means this, read A2. Then this T2 started, okay? After this sequence of instruction up to read A2, this T2 started its execution. But what would happen then? This will imply interleaving of the operations taken place. Why? Because T2 reads correct value of A1. Because write A1 is conducted in T1. So it will get the updated value of A1 after being summed up with 5000. But do notice that before conducting this operation, that is A2 cross 200 being assigned to A2, read A2 is taking place, isn't it? So, will not get a correct value of A2. This means what? T2 will read an incorrect value of A2. Got it? So, what happens in case of T2? AT is what? 2000 plus 5000. Why? Because this value of A1 is being updated for write A1 and read A1 taken place after this write A1. Okay, so it will take the exact updated value, that is 7000 for A1 plus A2, that is 5000. As this operations A2 cross 200 is not taken place when T2 started reading A2. Okay, so it will take just an old value of A2. So overall, we'll get 12,000. Isn't it? So what would happen? In for T2, we get total value as 12,000. Now in case of T1, 7,000 as an updated value of A1 and 5,000 cross 200. Overall, we'll have 10,07,000 as a total sum. You'll see that this total sum is not equal to this total sum of T1. So this will imply what? Data inconsistency. This is the reason why we need the isolation property. Exactly, isolation property means that changes should be visible only after they have been made to the main memory. Okay. So this write A2 should be conducted, then only this read A2 will occur. Got it? So that is isolation, means more than one transaction is going on, but they will not imply some adverse effect to other transaction or each other. Got it? So that is isolation property. So transactions are occurring independently without interference through this isolation property. Now coming to the durability property. This means that once the transaction has completed execution, database should be durable enough to hold all the latest updates even if the system fails or restarts. Okay, what exactly it means? It means that if the system fails due to some reasons or restarts, then also that updates will become permanent as they are being stored to some non-volatile memory. Got it? If a transaction commits but the system fails before the data could be written on the disk, then data will be updated once the system springs back into action. Got it? So this means what? Durability says that in no condition data will be lost. If the transaction is committed, then data will remain permanent at any cost. Got it? So today we have covered ACID and all these technical terminologies related to ACID. Okay, that compose of exactly ACID, that is atomicity, consistency, isolation, and durability. I hope you have understood all these technical terminologies. If you find this lecture is beneficial to you, then do subscribe to my channel and do like and share with your friends. Okay then, will you meet you in the next lecture of the Dbms. Till then, take care. Bye bye.